I still remember the sound before anything else. The click of the pump, stopping the hum of fluorescent lights overhead, and then a voice behind me saying, "Hey, buddy, don't move." 3 words calm on the surface, heavy underneath. That was the moment everything tilted. 1 second, I was just another guy on a long drive, tired, half thinking about getting home. The next, I was standing at a roadside gas station in a town I'd never heard of with 2 squad cars pulling in like they'd been waiting for me. Funny how fast ordinary turns into unforgettable. It was close to midnight, one of those stretches of highway where the darkness feels thick, like it could swallow sound. I was wearing a suit, nothing flashy, just what I'd worn earlier that day for work jacket folded over the seat, tie loosened. I'd stopped for gas, that's it. No music blasting, no erratic driving, nothing dramatic. But when I turned around, I saw the looks on their faces and I knew this wasn't about gas. One officer was already circling my car, slow, deliberate flashlight dragging across the doors like he was searching for an excuse. Another stood too close hand, hovering near his belt, eyes locked on my hands instead of my face. "License and registration," he said. Not rude, not polite, just final. I moved slowly, the way you do when you've learned that speed can be misread. I handed them over. He studied my license longer than necessary, then looked up and smirked. "Long way from home, huh?" I didn't answer. Sometimes silence feels safer. The 3rd officer arrived, then older, heavier, the kind who didn't rush because he didn't have to. He took one look at me and nodded like a decision had already been made somewhere I wasn't invited. They said I matched a description. I asked what description. No answer. I asked what crime. One of them laughed under his breath and told me to turn around. The cuffs were cold, not painful, just tight enough to remind me who was in control. I remember thinking almost absurdly that my suit was getting dirty. I also remember noticing that the small red lights on their body cameras weren't blinking. All of them were dark. That detail stuck with me. Inside the gas station, a clerk stared through the glass eyes-wide phone halfway raised, like he wasn't sure if recording would make things better or worse. A couple at the next pump whispered to each other. Someone said, "He doesn't look like a criminal." Someone else shrugged. I was guided into the back of a cruiser plastic seat, no handles, door slamming shut like punctuation. The world narrowed to flashing red and blue and the smell of old vinyl. At the station, they processed me with the efficiency of people who'd done this 1,000 times. Name, address, fingerprints. Charges that didn't quite make sense when you put them together. Suspicious behavior, failure to cooperate, disorderly conduct. I asked for my phone call. They told me the system was down. When I said that wasn't legal, one of them leaned back and smiled. "You can explain that to the judge in the morning." I smiled back just a little, not because it was funny, but because I knew something they didn't. I spent the night in a holding cell concrete bench buzzing light that never turned off. I didn't sleep much. I wasn't scared, exactly, more alert than anything, replaying every word, every look, filing it away. Around 3 in the morning, a guard walked past and asked if I was a lawyer. I said, "Something like that." He nodded slowly, like he wasn't sure what to do with that answer. By morning, the town woke up to a story it hadn't planned to tell. Someone had posted the gas station video. Another angle came from a customer's phone. Millions of strangers saw what I'd seen up close, the calm compliance, the lack of explanation, the escalation that came from nowhere. Reporters started calling. Lawyers started calling. People who knew me started calling. The system that had confidently locked me in a cell realized it had picked the wrong night. They brought me before a magistrate just before noon. The charge was read. A court date was set. I paid bail and walked out into a crowd of microphones and questions. I kept my statement short. Facts only. No anger. Anger distracts. Within hours, the video was everywhere. By the next morning, the county wanted the whole thing to disappear. Here's the part they never saw coming. The court date they set was 2 weeks out, and on that date the visiting judge scheduled to hear the case was me. Different name, different county, different robe, same man. I didn't request the assignment. It was already on the calendar before any of this happened. Coincidence has a strange sense of humor. The courtroom was packed that morning. Officers sat stiff at the defense table, eyes forward, jaws tight. The county attorney looked like he hadn't slept in days. When I walked in wearing the robe instead of cuffs, the room went quiet in a way that felt physical, like pressure on the chest. A motion was made for me to step aside. I denied it. I had witnessed every moment. I wasn't just a victim, I was evidence. We played the footage. Big screens, clear sound, timestamps rolling. I narrated, calmly pointing out moments the officers had hoped no one would notice. The hand near the weapon, the lack of explanation, the disabled cameras. Then came the records. No crime reported that night, no call that matched the so-called description. The lie fell apart piece by piece. And then came the data. Years of it. Traffic stops, arrests, searches. Numbers don't care about excuses. They just sit there waiting to be read. The disparity was impossible to ignore. When the expert said the word systemic bias, you could feel the shift. This wasn't about one bad stop anymore. This was about a pattern. I gave the officers a choice. We could drag every stop they'd ever made into the light, or we could stop pretending this was personal and start fixing what was broken. They chose the deal. Suspensions, oversight, training, cameras that couldn't be turned off, public reporting, real consequences, not revenge, reform. The weeks that followed were loud. Meetings, arguments, pushback, people saying this went too far, others saying it didn't go far enough. The numbers started to change. Slowly, then faster. Complaints dropped. Stops dropped. Trust, fragile as it was, began to grow. Some officers left. Others stayed and learned. The town didn't become perfect. No place does. But it became better. People ask me how it felt to stand there in cuffs knowing who I was. The truth is, in that moment, none of it mattered. Title, education, career, all of it vanished. I was just another man trying to stay safe. That's the part that stayed with me. The realization that the system only worked for me because I had tools most people don't. So here's my question for you. If this could happen to someone like me, what do you think happens when there are no cameras, no titles, no leverage? Was this justice or was it luck? Should reform come from moments like this, or should it never take a viral video to make change happen? Drop your thoughts below. Argue. Disagree. Share a story you've seen or lived through. Because silence keeps broken systems comfortable, and conversation is where accountability starts.